hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Elias here with Mike Bonelli and Christie Casciano-Burns, my broadcasting team. I just love using the word broadcasting. It's my favorite thing. Anyway, today's guest is someone who's helping athletes, parents, and leaders develop something every hockey family needs: emotional and transitional intelligence. If you aren't familiar with one or both of these terms, stay tuned, because our guest is an expert in both of them. Angie Lion is the author of Emerge, Rise from the Depths, Realign Your Soul, and Reclaim What Matters, and the co-founder and chief soul officer of Black River Performance Management, who helped to optimize organizations through the optimization of its people. I love how they put that. Her work blends science-backed leadership. We only bring on people who know what they're talking about, with the humanity behind it. Again, only bring on people who know what they're talking about, helping people to learn and adapt and lead and grow through change. And as many of you know, think about this: adapting, leading, and growing through change are aspects that our young athletes face every single time they step on the ice, step in the school, step on the bus, whatever they're doing. So Angie, we are really excited for this conversation. Welcome to Our Kids Play Hockey.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and get to know a little bit more about you all and all the work that you're doing as well. And this is so great that you share this kind of information with your audience. I love this.
Yeah, I think it's imperative. You know, when you think about youth sports, we don't even have to keep this to hockey. I think a lot of the focus is on the skill sets and the journey and where you're going to end up. And we always say that the ROI on youth sports is the life lessons. And I think that the mental side of the game is not just valuable, it's as valuable, potentially more valuable than the skill side. Because as I'm finding out over 40, those skills are going away. It doesn't matter how good you are. Your body's going to tell you that you can't do it. But the emotional intelligence and the other stuff, that actually continues to pay off. So let's start there real quick, Angie. For the parents and coaches who hear the words emotional intelligence, right, and they think that's a soft skill, can you explain why, it's called EQ also,
Yeah.
is actually a performance advantage for athletes, for teams, and for people?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Well, first of all, the one thing that I love about is we're talking about skills, and emotional intelligence is a buildable skill. It's not something that you have to be born with. In fact, I'm the perfect example of somebody who had very low EQ. And we can get into that here in a minute, but it's a skill that you can train and learn and integrate. And it's not a personality trait, so it's not fixed. And that's why I love this work, is because you get to see people get better in these skills that will help them in everyday life long past their hockey careers, right? Into the workplace, into their relationships, into their lifelong. So if you're talking about a lifelong skill that you want to impart on these kids, you're doing such a service to them at a younger age, because it's really hard to start learning this stuff in your 40s and 50s, but usually we like to learn the hard way and wait till something falls apart in our life and we have a life quake or we have some pain, and
Yeah.
then we need to change.
Yeah, I love the way you just described that a little bit, and I think Lee's lead into on what this emotional intelligence is and how it like helps our kids across like all facets of their life. Because I think, as in our case, right, as hockey coaches, we only get the kids for an hour, 3 hours a week. We see them at games. We see the highs and lows of during the game. But can you just talk a little bit about like how this soft skill, like we're not working on the power skating, we're not working on the shooting, but how like if I teach a kid how to be a really good shot, that skill does not help them in the classroom. Can you talk a little bit about like the soft skills that we're learning here as athletes? That's actually how much it does help them in all the other aspects of their life.
Yeah. Can we just talk about the term soft skill? Because I hate that term. And I think it's more of a hard skill, because
Right.
if it was soft, if it's hard, because not everybody really wants to do that work or is willing to do the work. And it actually comes from the military, the US military. Soft skills and hard skills. Soft skills have to do with human skills, and the hard skills have to do with the tactical, the guns, the maneuvering, the skills of the craft, whether it's
Right.
sports or whether it's the sport or the craft, let's say. So the shooting, all that stuff, those are technical skills, but the human skills are these soft skills. or life skills or human skills that we can call them. These are the skills that we kind of pick up along the way, and from our parents, from our coaches, from the world around us, and how we navigate our emotions. And there's different cultures. Hockey has a culture. Certain hockey teams have cultures in general, right? There's micro cultures and there's cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So each culture has its own. How is this available? What can I do? What's allowed? How do I manage my emotions? What's my mindset around emotions, right? Because if we have a mindset about our emotions being a bad thing, that's going to set us up for not as much areas for growth and opportunity. So thinking about your mindset about emotions is really important, because they're going to be happening to all of us. And anger is an emotion, and it's the one that is most allowed. And so it shows up more often in behaviors, but really it's learning that to deal with rejection and disappointment and sadness and anxieties that they all face, and becoming able to name them and understand where they're coming from, that they're signals, they're not facts. They're not a fact that we have to follow, but they are telling us something. And so oftentimes, if we dive deeper, we find out that they tell us what we really value. Anxiety tells you that let's say it's social anxiety. It tells you really value what people think about you and how you're going to show up and how you're going to be perceived. So it tells you about what you care about. So it's not a bad thing. It's a signal, but it's not a directive. It's data. It's not a directive.
And Angie, coming from a parent perspective, all the things that you just said, rejection, disappointment, dealing with that's all a part of hockey as our kids go through it.
Right?
They deal with every single one of those. And I'm thinking back to my own kids. Boy, there are times where I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to help them through it. They figured it out, but wouldn't it have been great if they had something else, like a nice cushion, a skill set that they could just lean into? So how do we get our kids there?
Yeah, you could start by little tactics that you could start. Well, first of all, having a coach that's open and sees this as valuable and important, and families, because that kids aren't going to come from all families that have really emotionally intelligent people. Like, I didn't come from a family that had that. And so consequently, I wasn't the best in my parenting, but I'm getting better all the time. So these skills are getting better all the time. But I will tell you, it's one of the biggest regrets I had is I wish I had some of the skills I have now that when I was raising my kids, but I was kind of building the plane as I was flying it then too. Plus, we didn't have YouTube, podcasts, all the audio, but we didn't have a lot of the information we have now. So there's a lot of things that people could do. But I would start with a mood-o-meter, or having them that's from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, having them start to really get a vocabulary around their emotions and what they actually mean. Like, there's a difference between jealousy and envy. Mm-hmm. Envy, and people get those messed up a lot. Like, jealousy is wanting what somebody else it involves a relationship. It involves losing someone to another relationship, like a friend to another person, or it involves maybe somebody that you like, somebody else liking that person or whatever. It's loss. It's fearing loss of a relationship, whereas envy is wanting what someone else has. Right. But oftentimes people get those mixed up. And so even knowing the definitions, knowing what they are, so you can name them to tame them. Right? We have to be able to call them out. What is this emotion? Where is it coming? And what's it telling me? Doesn't mean you need to follow it and say, well, I'm anxious. I don't need to go. I'm not going to practice today because I'm feeling anxious. No, what is that emotion telling you? Right. What can we do? Let's work through that anxiety.
Angie, what I love about these answers is that we're echoing things we've said on the show, which is perfect because you're the expert, right? About how emotions are hard. What I love is for the people listening to the show, we often listen in the context of for our kids, right? It's our kids play hockey. All of this is true for us as adults as well, right? Yeah. Emotions are hard. That's why when our kids are having these big emotional outbreaks, it's easier just to kind of push it away or be like, sure, don't feel that way. I don't want to deal with it, because it's invoking emotions in you. But the truth is what Angie just said is have those kids, have yourself call out the emotions. One of the things I say all the time, Angie, you talked about like being like anxiety before. I tell the kids I coach, if you're feeling anxious, great. That means you care. That's what that emotion means, right? The other thing I wrote down here is that, again, emotions are hard. All right. And you got to find a way to express them. That is modern coaching. And to back up Angie, and I want the parents who grew up in the 80s and before to understand this. I get to work with a lot of Division I NCAA programs. Okay. And one of the things, the constants that I see from those coaches is when practice starts, a lot of the times they will start by asking, hey, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. How are you feeling today? They'll start with that to get a gauge on the emotion of the team, right? And they may change their practice if a lot of the athletes show up and they're not feeling it for whatever reason that day. They understand. People, again, might look at that and we said, like, oh, that's soft. They're like, no, that's smart. Like you need to know where they're coming from. That is modern coaching. That is modern athletes. Again, every athlete responds a little differently. We're not all the same. But I say all the time, if you don't have that gauge, you're not going to be able to do as good of a job. And again, the NCAA athletes understand the purpose behind this. It's not a pity party in any way, right? I'm in touch with this. I need to know where I'm at to figure out my output. So I just think that's brilliant. I also want to bring this up to you. One second. You talked about data before, right? We had a question here about emotions are data. You wrote that. So I'm curious about, we're talking about this, how hockey players can use that idea during games, right? Especially when the adrenaline and the frustrations are high. Like, what do we mean by it's data?
Well, first, the thing you could do is start to track some of the things. So what triggers you? Right. That's a good place to start. What if your teams had a trigger journal? And that was like, man, yeah, we all have triggers. We're human beings. We're having emotions, and some things are triggering me. Yeah. So you could start with a trigger journal and say, what are the things that trigger me? When somebody talks down to me, when somebody says this, when somebody tries to, and then also recognizing that people learn your triggers and then they try to push them, right?
Yeah.
Push a button.
Being a sibling, right? If you have a sibling, you know that one. Yeah.
Oh, we know how to push buttons.
If you have a sibling, you've been bullied and you know how to push buttons, right? So keeping a trigger journal will help you create some data about the things that you need to work on. Because if you don't work on your triggers, everybody else will control you with your triggers.
Right. That's a great statement.
It's so funny. We have I don't think the player will mind me bringing this up, but we have a player I'm working with right now, and the kids know what his triggers are. I mean, everyone knows it, right? And I'll get a kick out, and if they're not, I don't know. I look at it two different ways, because I like the fact that the kid I like the fact that the kids are pushing him at his age right now, because I think he's learning I can help monitor the trigger. Like, I know it's coming, right? And I know the dig, but then I can help manage him through the trigger in real time. Like, not in like going back and saying, oh, remember that happened 5 hours ago? Like, right there on the bench, like, and I can turn in. So could you maybe like some real practical advice on, when are you attacking these triggers, and what can we do as coaches to support? We know our players. I think a lot of, really good coaches, like Lee's talking about, they know their players. They know what sets them off. Hopefully they know what motivates them. They know what gets them in bad moods or negative spaces. Like, what can we do in real time with our athletes in training, to help them manage those triggers?
I love that question. And it's going to depend on different kids. But I think setting up expectations kind of in the locker room, things like, we are going to be we are emotional beings. We're emotional creatures. Our brain's always trying to keep us alive and keep us safe. And it's not always correct, and it's not always accurate. And I'm here to help you navigate it. And so, are you open to me giving you a code word or giving you a hand signal or something, like you're losing your shit or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, you're going, sorry, I probably shouldn't cuss on this one.
You're good. You're fine. They can handle it. They hear worse in the locker room, trust me.
So it's one of those things where, like, you're noticing it. I'm seeing it. And if they're open to a hand signal, if they're open to a code word, that, this is it's happening. Because the key is, we might know all this stuff, just like you could teach a bunch of plays. on the board and teach the stuff, but it's all integration that is where it matters, is when you catch them and help them, when you help them on the ice, and you're helping them in the moment, because that's it. It's when you have to have a difficult conversation with somebody on the team. It's when you need to talk to your coach. It's when your parent is yelling or whatever is happening. How am I going to navigate this space? And how am I going to help this kid understand that this is a trigger? And how can you help them reframe it? So there's a lot of different ways to reframe it. So maybe some of that stuff happens off the ice, and having them talk about what their strategies are. Because they need strategies, and different strategies are going to work for different kids. You know how they're all different. Your kids are different. One strategy that would work for me won't work for you.
All right, so can I hijack this for a second, Lee and Christie? So one of the things I love about the podcast is this is like free therapy for me. But it's also the ability to have experts like this, we normally wouldn't get. I can't sit in a ring and say, oh, let me talk to an expert on this. Let me bring you through a real, and this is, and again, I'd love to know, just a little feedback, just so this player knows. I know they're on the ice. I go, I you know what the trigger is of this player? When I pull them off the ice and they think it's a short shift, they lose their minds. Literally, the player's on the ice, they're out there for 5 minutes. In hockey, it should be 40 seconds, 60 seconds. This player's out there for 2.5 minutes. And I'll on the bench, because I'm trying to manage little kids, these are 12 and 13-year-olds, right? So I'm trying to manage them, and what I try to do is bring it into a little, I try to bring a little levity to it. Okay, I'm going to call so and so off right now. Watch him lose his mind right now. He's going to lose his mind, and everybody on the bench knows it. And I say, okay, change it up, and he loses his mind. It's short shift. The hands are up. He's stamping. But then I can turn it into a I can make it a little funny. And say, oh, well, we knew that was going to happen. So let me explain why we did it. But guess what? Get a better reaction would have been this. And and just understand why I'm trying to help you with this. Because I think if you don't, you just said it. If you don't address it ever, and I just ignore it, right? And then it just gets worse and worse and worse. But the player doesn't even know that you're aware of their and
it's hard, Mike. It's like for the coaches, parents, it's not easy to do this. And another big word that comes up when I think about this, gang, is patience, right? I'm thinking of a real world right now. I have a player who has wild emotional outbursts during the game. Young player. I should preface this. This is a younger player. All right. And it's it's annoying. I'm not going to lie to you. All right. But I have to calm myself down. And I tell me, you have to be patient and find a way to talk to this player. Right. And I remember last season constantly trying different things. And, around the 10th thing, we figured out kind of how to communicate. Right. But there had to be patience. And I think what happens a lot of time with those kids, is that they get a little written off of, they're just a problem. They're annoying. They're
problem child.
Yeah. They have all these letters after they're they've got. No, if you're coaching, if you're the coach, it is your responsibility to try and work and figure this out. And I'm not guaranteeing that you will. And just to give you an idea how crazy this got, I remember and when I say try things, I try different voices. I try different ways of explaining. I try different techniques. And I did a funny foreign accent on the bench. And this player just started laughing uncontrollably. And that's their thing. And that's out of nowhere. And when I need to get through to this player, I flip on this fake horrible accent that I would never say the country's name because I don't want anybody to hear how bad the accent is. All right, and it gets through to them. But it took half the season to figure this out. But there was the patience there, and there was the understanding there, and their children deserve this. Also, for the adults listening, we're not much better at it. Okay, we justify it by saying, well, I've lived and I've gone through a lot of stuff, but we're hockey families. We see them in the stands. These triggered parents can't handle themselves. They start fighting. This is not just a skill for kids. Sorry.
That's what I'd like to actually say. The hardest part is most of these kids have gotten their emotional regulation skills from their parents, right? And so, and including myself, which means that as parents, our kids aren't learning what we tell them; they're learning what we do. Right? We're modeling the behaviors. So, as parents, even if you've messed up before, it's never too late to start. I mean, I'm still working on it. I'm now a grandma and I'm working on these things and trying to do better. But it's a lifelong skill that we always continue to work on. And it's never too late to start. And what you can start with is, wow, that was really inappropriate behavior. I don't want to do that again. I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to own it, be accountable. But, you know, it's embarrassing to be accountable. One of the things I even see in organizations right now is the biggest challenge is accountability. People don't like being accountable. They like to blame other people and things. And so this stuff is skills that if we could teach it earlier in life, that you don't just get to pass it on. You own it. Your behaviors are your responsibility. Your emotions are your responsibility. Your triggers are your responsibility. I can give you tools. We can give you, but they need tools. They need the skill building. And Mike, like what you said, how can I do this? How can I practice it? I would start with a mood-o-meter in your locker room, checking in with people. How are you doing? I've seen even in organizations with grown adults where they print one off and they put their face on a magnet and they walk in and they put their face on where they're feeling. You know, and so like the emotions are allowed here, but certain behaviors aren't.
Well, and how about this, Angie? How often for everybody here, like talking about adults, how trained we are to not be this way. If you can sense one of your friends is not doing great and you go, hey, is everything okay? What's the common response? I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Great.
Yeah.
And it's like you're not. And again, look, it's not easy to come out and say, you know what? I'm really not okay. And here's the 7 things that are bothering me. That's not easy either. Mm-hmm. But I'm just bringing that up as a show. Like we were all taught to bury this stuff. Bury your feelings. I remember hearing from a lot of different people going up, hey, don't feel that way. Don't do that. Don't be angry. Don't be like.
Don't be embarrassed.
Yeah. Don't be. Yeah. We're telling people that. Like don't feel your emotions. Like we were all raised that way.
Especially boys. Especially boys. And there's a lot of research from and in fact, there's a podcast everybody should listen to after this. More homework if you want to build these skills is Andrew Huberman recently had one with the Mark Brackett, who's the lead of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. And there's some research on the difference between boys and girls and what societal pressures are. And then there's some skill building in that as well. But you know what happens when you hold a beach ball underwater, right? How long can you hold it?
Not very long.
Sure, it's going to pop up.
It's going to pop up, and it's going to be at the most inopportune time. It's going to be at somebody. It's going to embarrass you because you're going to do it to us. You're going to blow up on somebody, and it's going to be for something little.
Right.
We've all seen it. We've all seen it.
Well, it's like on the beach ball. Don't go up. Don't go up, beach ball. That's what's like. Don't feel your emotions. Don't go up.
Yeah. And I'm just curious. Oh, go ahead, Angie.
One more thing I was going to say is, you know, in hockey or any sports, you're concerned about health and wellness and, you know, well-being and suppressing emotions. I have a whole section on the book too about what suppressing your emotions does, but it is not good for your body. It's actually worse. Not working through these emotions and letting them surface or crying them out or doing whatever and suppressing them is actually worse on our health than what we eat and lack of exercise. So it's a well-being thing as well.
Proven.
The body keeps the score, and the research is in that book. If you want to know what happens in the body and where the root cause of a lot of autoimmune disease comes from, it comes from dysregulated and not regulated emotions and suppressing.
I wanted to go back to the trigger journal that you mentioned, which just fascinates me. I think that's such a great idea to have a journal, write down your triggers. Once you have that journal, then what do you do with it? How do you match the skill set properly? What do you do? What's the next step?
And that is where I think it's important to bring the kid, whatever the group is, if it's a kids group, if it's a workplace group, what are some of the strategies and skills that work for you? Because you know people that navigate these things well. You're a coach, you can say, okay, when I get triggered by this, you be vulnerable and you share. When I'm triggered by somebody saying something, or let's go back to taking the kid off the ice, right? So there's a deeper problem. There's a deeper issue there that's more of a root cause. The behavior is all we're seeing, the tip of the iceberg. There's a root cause, and that root cause, if you can get to that, you're going to help that kid. And that kid, you might be the one who flips that kid from actually being the trouble kid. You might be the one who actually sees that kid. That kid might be struggling with, most likely, their worth.
Sure.
Most likely they're struggling with their worth and not feeling enough. And when you pull them off the ice, they feel like they're not as good as or whatever. So they're feeling insecure, but they're not going to say, I'm feeling insecure. Well, they
Right.
might eventually, but they are feeling fearful that they're not good, that they're not wanted, that so their brain is hyper, aware to all of that stuff. So the behavior you see is, all they know to do. It's reactive. Our behaviors are more like habits that we create. So if you can stop those habits earlier, and create a space for them to choose
Kind of
something
decompress.
more helpful, choose another helpful response. And when they do make a mistake, it's like the same as the technical skills. You're not going to hit every slap shot, right? You're going to make some mistakes. You got to practice these skills. And when you do, we will revisit it. And remember, we talked about this, that you're not going to throw your hands up. You're going to reframe. So reframing is like seeing it from a different perspective. So they probably only have one perspective. When I get pulled off the ice, it means I'm not enough. I'm not good. I suck. Whatever the story is, find out what the story is in their head that they're telling themselves, and then see if you can help them reframe the story. What if you saw it like, this is a team and you need rest? You're one of my best players and I need you to get rested. I need you to be ready, and I need you in the headspace so that when I put you out next time, you're going to go full bore. Like, you got to help them be able to see it in a different way, that it's not they suck. And that's what their little minds are thinking.
Right. You got to shift their perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. Cool.
I love
it.
I want to bring this up too, and I always love talking about these topics because, I think a lot of coaches go like, well, I don't know how to do this, or that, the kids are soft. Here's the deal. All right. In the world our kids are growing up in, they're insanely aware that emotions exist, right? They're in environments where they're not being told to bury it all the time. So while we may have been told that, and you might think that approach really helped you succeed, and I'm not judging you. It behooves you to understand that they don't see the world the same way we did growing up. They're aware of their emotions. They're taught this in school, all right, which is good, all right? So if you want to be a great leader, a great coach, you've got to do some time in understanding this. And a lot of it, this is what you're not going to love to hear, is also introspective. Like, you have to look at yourself a little bit too and understand your own emotions, all right? But I will say this too, it gives you a significant advantage as a leader, as a coach, to dedicate some time to this and understanding. I always say to my friends, Angie, that are having issues, because we get a lot of asks for advice. I say focus on the behavior, not so much the outcome. If you focus on the behavior, you'll start to uncover things. And then, like you said, I love you brought up like the root cause, right? Because we sometimes can't open up our own minds enough to see, like what you just said, oh, that kid feels that this is an assignment of their worth by pulling them off the ice. And there's a million scenarios like that where we get lost in our own head, a little bit of ego involved in that, right? And we can't see the other perspective. I always talk about this like with fourth lines in the NHL who do not get a lot of ice time. They are clear on their role. My role is to support the team with the 5 shifts I get each night. It's not about me getting ice time. I'm not worthless. I have a job. I have a role, and the coach believes in that. Well, that role was communicated to them very clearly, all right? And if it's not, you are going to have a problem. Now, in youth hockey, where we get in trouble is you should not have a fourth line that's not getting ice time at 10U hockey, right? Everyone should play, all right? That's the way it is. Even in big situations sometimes. Okay, I'm not talking about the 2-1 game when you got 20 seconds left. I understand the decisions that are made in that time, all right? But we've got to learn how to develop the emotional side of these kids as much as the physical side. And I'm going to say this, coaches, that is part of your responsibility. All right, it takes a village. Parents play a massive role in this. Sometimes they will fight you on this. But if you want to be an effective coach, you have to take the time and learn this.
I think that's why, Angie, like that's why we have to, like, at the youth level, right? I mean, I get a little bit at the college level and the pro level. You're dealing with agents and advisors and things like that. But at the youth level, we see this all the time on our show. Is your advisor, your advocate is your parent, right? So can you talk about, like, I see this in, this emotional up and down happening, like it just happened in a couple of games ago where a player didn't play almost the whole game, or at least a period and a half, and the mother was very upset at the end of the game. I go, well, you haven't even talked to your son yet. He's he took his skates off because his feet outgrew his skates. Like, that had nothing to do with me. So I can only imagine what their emotions were doing up in the stands during that whole period of time. Like, I don't have the ability to say, hey, time out, stop the clock, give me the microphone. Just want to let you know that your son, I can't do those kind of things. So can we talk a little bit about like the tie-in between a coach and the relationship with the parent and the player, and how important it is to do those workshops or, this stuff together? Because at the end of the day, no matter what I say to the player, it's the game of telephone, right? By the time it leaves the locker room, like, that's not the same conversation with the parent. And how we can do a really good job of tying them in.
You're dealing with a lot of emotion contagion. We know that those emotions are contagious, right? And it happens in hockey, it happens in workplaces, and somebody gets something in their head and they start ruminating on it. And, so it's becoming aware of it. I think it's a language where this is where something, if your kid's going to play on my team, we're going to work on emotion management. We're going to learn, we're going to become more self-aware. We're going to raise the collective EQ of our team and our parents, because we want to give them skills that they can use beyond hockey. And these are the skills that will help them be past hockey and into their relationships and their lives. And it's going to help them become, we know the research is there that people who have higher EQ are more successful in life. It is not an IQ thing, and it is not a technical skill thing. It's not a skill thing. It's an EQ. And all that data is out there.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, and then I want to dive into transitional intelligence, because I think that's important. I had a great example over the weekend with my own daughter, where she came to me and she said that, there's one of my teammates, and they're good friends, they care about each other, that is asking me to do something on the ice, and I just don't like the way she's asking, right? And she actually asked me, like, how do I deal with that? And we had a great conversation. I said, well, what do you think is motivating her? What do you think she wants? And it's, well, I think she wants to score, right? So that's how you start that conversation. I know that you want to score, all right? And I want to help you score more goals, all right? And then you can go into, but it's tough to pass the puck to you in these situations because this is what's happening. What can we do to do that better? This girl's 9 years old, all right? Not 19, not 29, not 49, 9. And she grasped this concept of, oh, okay, I didn't realize that there's something she wants there. I thought she was just telling me that I need to move the puck, right? That's emotional intelligence. Start to understand, like, what's her perspective? Why is she doing this? And she's your friend, right? She'll listen to you. And it's, again, I also, too, might not be the most comfortable conversation, but it's one that needs to happen.
That's
right?
a perfect example.
Yeah, it's just, I think people go, I wrote this down too. Oh, they're young. They're better at it than we are. They're way better. All right.
They don't have the ego. They're not listening with our son said this the other day, and we wrote this one down. Listen with your listening ears, not your ego ears.
Right.
Oh, that's a good one.
Ego ears down. No, it's so true. Because like when you think about it, and again,
I better write that down.
You're making a good point.
I know.
Like I'll use the word baggage. As we get older, we get more weight. All right. And I think the kids don't have that. So they're way more open to learn this stuff, and they will learn it. And you'll have a massive impact on their lives as parents, as coaches, as friends to do this. But just the concept of, hey, that person wants something.
Yeah.
Right. All right. You got to focus on the behavior. What is it that they want? Then you can motivate. Anyway, Christie, go ahead.
Yeah. I want to transitional hockey. You mentioned it. And our kids go through this all the time in hockey. They face transitions constantly, as we all know, new levels, new coaches, new roles. So how can families teach their kids to see changes as a skill rather than a setback? That's so important, especially in hockey, as we see it every season.
Every 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's such an important skill. Transitional intelligence is like EQ's older sister, right? It's like how you handle your emotions or how you handle change and transitions. So there's a whole skill set that goes with that as well. But it's understanding that every transition begins with an end. You're no longer on that team. You're no longer dating that person. I mean, you got hockey, but that person is a whole person. So let's say they are teenagers, right? And they have relationships, but their relationships are transitioning. They're physically transitioning into puberty, more hormones. So they're having physical transitions. They're having personal transitions in their relationships with their friends. Then they're having and then their hockey. So there's so many things going on at once. that that many transitions bring really a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear and a lot of grief, because they've left something, they've left a team, they've left this, they've had a breakup, who knows what's even going on in their home life. So they have a lot of stacking emotions. This is why the emotional intelligence piece fits with the transitions, because you really do need to parse out, that you're grieving, or that you're, and know that grief has its own process.
Well, I'll say this too. When you get to teenagers, and I was fascinated by this, that their defense mechanisms in their brain are off because they're changing so fast. The teenage brain actually turns some of those off so they can kind of expand, right? So that's why you're getting such intense, insane, emotional outbreaks, because the change is devastating at that age. You don't have the brain stopping you from, hey, listen, calm down. There's none of that, right? In fact, if you tell a teenager to calm down, God bless you. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a trigger.
Tell your wife
Trigger.
Would you say, Mike?
Tell your wife to calm down.
Just telling anybody to calm down typically doesn't
I can
work.
see you're upset. That would help. I can see you're upset.
Yeah.
What's got, see them and meet them where they're. I can see you're upset.
Yeah.
What's going on? What's happening under the surface? Talk to me.
Well,
Tell me
sometimes
more.
I'll say, Angie, who am I talking to right now? And that kind of snaps them. I'm like, am I talking like the anger side of you? Because I'll say, I don't think this is really you. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a shocking statement. And so a lot of times when I say that, there's just I get a stare. But hey, something's flipped in their mind. I'll tell you this too about transitional intelligence, where I had to learn this. Was my wife was in the military, and every year or every 3 years, we had to pick up our entire life, all of it, and move to another country, another state, another situation. And, in the beginning, it's really hard, and you assign so much pressure to it. But honestly, by the 5th time, and we moved about 11 times, I'm not kidding, you start to understand what's important. Like, none of the stuff you have is really that important. It's the people. All right. And then you also realize you can say goodbye to people and you'll talk to them. We live in a wonderful time where we can talk to people and you move on quickly. Right. And you understand not to assign too much emotion. There is some to any of the situations. Yeah. Right. And I think part of it is with kids with transitional intelligence is understanding that process. I love that you said it starts with an end. That's not fun. Right. Yeah. And again, go ahead. You said there's 3 stages, right? Why don't we dive through those?
It starts with an end. And then you have a messy middle, that uncertainty. Yeah. You're not who you are and who you are going to be yet. You're in this liminal space. But we can help them reframe that, yes, while it might feel scary and uncertain and messy and gooey and icky and lonely and dark, it's also fertile ground for the new version of you, for the new opportunities that will be coming on the new team, in a new relationship, in a new city, whatever the thing is, the new health diagnosis, right? So there's 3 stages to any transition, and each of them have their own set of emotions that go with them. And so knowing that you're not lost or messed up or crazy, this is normal part of it, but it's building different skills to help you navigate it and have language to actually articulate, oh, yeah, I'm really struggling with letting go. Yeah. I want things to stay the same. And okay, well, so what are those feelings? And work through some of those things.
Yeah, I'd say everyone I know feels that way during change. And again, one of my favorite sports quotes is, it's not that life gets easier, it's you get better at doing life. Like, you get more experience, right? Because, man, if there's anything we've realized as hosts on this show over the last few years, things are going to change. Things are going to dramatically change. You know what I mean? And in hockey, again, just from the skill sets of hockey, the game, there is so much change in one game that these kids have to work through. Imagine teaching your kids this concept of transitional intelligence, which Angie coined, at that age when they're doing it 15 times. I'm giving it to you.
Okay.
I'm giving it. No, it's fine. You can give someone credit. But my point is this, Angie, is that there's such opportunity because these kids are going through so much transition in a game that they're getting the reps in, so when they're adults, they can deal with it.
Yep. You're building resiliency. By teaching these kids emotional intelligence, they're going to be able to handle setbacks. They're going to be able to move to a new town. They're going to be able to go up and go ask for a job, walk in and not apply online.
Now, I'm going to say this too. I have to say this.
Yeah.
Parents, parents listening, this is, and Mike, Christie, this is like my biggest gripe as a coach. You've got to let your kids go through those uncomfortable moments without helicoptering them all the time, because of what Angie just said. If you don't let them build up that resilience, it's not going to do much for them. In fact, it's probably going to have an opposite effect. Let your kids fail. Yeah, let them fail. You have to let it. It's hard. It sucks. But that's the power of being a parent, is that we can take it for them and be there for them. The power is not in, I'll protect you. I mean, obviously sometimes, but you know what I'm saying in these situations. Anyway, sorry. I'm getting on a soapbox.
So overparenting is just as bad as underparenting, right?
Yeah.
Not doing anything for your kids or managing everything and managing their emotions. And
you got to find the messy middle.
Got to get off the extremes. What was that?
I said, you got to find the messy middle of parenting, right?
Yeah, you do. And it is messy. And it even gets weirder when they grow up and they're adult kids. There's that whole, you better hope you had worked on their emotional intelligence skills at a younger age, because that is a whole another thing.
All right, for those of you listening at home, we had to let Christie go because she is on assignment. She actually has to go read the news now. Continues to put her day job ahead of us. God bless you, Christie. But we're going to keep going here, Mike and I, with Angie. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, life keeps going on in Syracuse, New York. So, Angie, I mean, we talked about like the transitions, right? And that no one really in a team sport transitions in isolation. Like as a player's transitioning, it's not one individual. Like it could be, but really, sometimes it's the flow of the room, right? And it's the emotions that go along with. I mean, we see it every day. We see it. Goal is scored and the emotions are here, and then all of a sudden, boom, we get scored against, and the emotions are here, and all of that, and then the parents are crazy, the kids are crazy, the coach is losing his mind. Can you just talk about the role that we have, to navigate these, like you said earlier, these messy moments, like these moments between these transitions? How can we all work together and maybe some better strategies that we can use and train to prepare for those messy moments?
Yeah, I think bringing the team together, talking to the parents and the kids in the beginning of the season, and talking to them about the expectations. This is what I'm here to do. This is what I want to work on. I want to work on EQ skills, TQ skills, because they're going to help you become a stronger, better human in society. They're going to help you with your hockey too. And so these are the skills that we're going to work on. I got to get your commitment from parents and from players that you are willing to do this. And we might send some team podcasts out. We might have a team read. We might have some exercises that come home with you, a trigger journal. These are things that we are going to do in our culture, in our team, because we know the value, and we're not expecting you to be perfect. We're expecting you to be open and willing to change a little bit as it relates to your behaviors, right?
And I love what you just, so really for anybody listening, right? Especially if you're a coach or a team manager or a parent that wants to help bring this into your organization, the ability to define what you're doing, right, and then giving the blueprint and the roadmap. We talk about it from the hockey perspective. Like good coaches have a season syllabus. They have a plan. They have we're going to start here. We're going to be doing this, and we're going to finish here. Like there's goals and there's expectations. I think, and this is definitely, I mean, outside of mental fitness, physical off ice fitness, and then transitions and emotional fitness. Yeah, these are like the most lacking things we do in the sport, because a lot of us are not trained for any of this except for how do you skate, how do you shoot, and when do you pull the goalie, right? So that's the kind of stuff that we work on all the time. But this is something I think you need to define. You need to give the roadmap to, and you just said it. You have to give the tools to be able to actually do these things. You can't just say,
I have a bunch of exercises in my book. So
that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, it's like you're giving us the answers to the test. Like here, use this as your blueprint, and then use it depending on who your teams are. And one of the things, like I would say, is like this is where that one parent that always wants to help and is not a coach, never wants to do the clock, doesn't want to do the tournament scheduling. Maybe this is an assignment they can do. Like this is something they can take ownership in, because like you said, it helps my team, it helps my kids, it helps us out of the sport, and it really is an added value to our program. because we're all together anyway. Like we have to be together
Absolutely.
anyway. So why
now
not?
You're talking engagement, and I got a whole model for that too. So we could talk engagement, but you have the components down that it is, what are you good at that you could bring to this? Because we need everybody here to be active, and none of you have to be experts. There are experts in the field of this kind of stuff. There's enough materials, there's exercises, there's things, but somebody would own it. Who would be willing to own it? Now, as the coach, we're going to be using a mood meter. We're going to be checking in with your team. We're going to find out where they are. We're going to learn. We're going to increase our vocabulary. We're going to start naming things, and we're going to talk about things. We're going to learn to reframe. So those are some of the tools that you could do. We're going to keep a trigger journal. So that we learn how to improve. That's it. Like those could be a few things that you could just start with, and then see what the group notices and how they start to want to add the value. This is working for me, because they all are having their own experiences. And when you start to bring them in and then they start to become engaged. Yeah, I've noticed that I don't freak out as often, or I'm not snapping at, my parents when I get home because I'm tired and cranky or whatever, or I'm hangry, or maybe I'm not getting enough sleep. And I notice that I behave a whole lot differently when I don't have sleep, because that is a huge indicator. Sleep will help you in your emotions a ton.
Well, I'm going to echo something you said earlier, Angie, too, is that you have to set these standards right from the start, right? Mm-hmm. The amount of coaches that wait too long to set their standards, I mean, you're in an uphill battle immediately. Great example, again, we're recording this in May, and my kids' team just had their parity tournament in the middle of May, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But I was asked, well, are you going to loosen up on the standards? I said, are you crazy? No, I'm going to set them. You're going to be here an hour before the game. First game was at 7 a.m. Yeah, we're coming here at 6. First game, you're setting the standard. We're going to have these meetings at this time. We're going to talk about this at this time. You set the standard. You know what? It was a great weekend. The only groaner was having to get up early. That was it. But now the standard has been set for the season. When they come back to me in late July, they'll have experienced this. Now, if I started with, oh, no, it's just a parity tournament, show up half an hour before, well, that's the standard I'm setting. All right. Yeah. Keep in mind, this was my first time with the team, right? So it's the same thing with EQ, TQ, emotional stuff. Set the standard. I told the parents, we're going to work on this stuff this year. This is part of your kid's development as a person, as a player, and it's our responsibility. That's the conversation you have to have, coaches, and you've got to be pretty poignant when you're having these conversations, that this is what we're doing. If you're in charge, own it. Own it. And I'll make this statement too, because I think sometimes you can be in a locker room, 15, 20 kids, and it can be like, oh, man, some of them aren't paying attention. If one of them is paying attention, if one of them is buying into this, you're making a massive impact on that kid's life, okay? And just so you know, I'd say most of them are paying attention. Someone sent me a picture of this team I'm talking about in the locker room. I'm talking, and every single one of them is looking directly at me. And I actually made a joke in the text of, wow, they really do listen. You know what I mean? So that's just something I think is important. All right. Angie,
and they listen to their coaches more than they listen to their parents now. Once they get past like about 10 years of age, coaches have so much more influence than parents. Parents think that they're around them more, but kids start to listen to their peers and their coaches and their mentors and their support systems a lot more than they do their parents after they get out of their youngest years, their formative years.
Well, Angie, it's funny you said that, because we joke as coaches that a lot of, especially in the younger ages, it's a lot of parent coaches. And we joke that my kid will listen to every other coach on the ice but me before they listen to me. And we actually tag team the kids sometimes with that of like, hey, I need you to show my kid this, I'll show your kid this, because they're going to listen to you over me. And it's so true.
So use those and know your influence as the coach, that you teaching and modeling this and saying it's important, even if their parents think it's bullshit. It doesn't matter.
That's right. Yeah.
You say this is important and I'm working on it and I want you to be better. I'm going to become better too. I know that these are things that I'm working on. You know what some of my triggers are? Blah, blah, blah. I'm doing this. And here's what my strategies are. This is what's worked for me. All of a sudden, you just showed that you have emotions. You're working on getting them better. You're willing to improve. You have openness and willingness. You can't do anything with closed mindset, fixed mindset.
And that you can be vulnerable too, and that there's a skill set in that. Angie, I do want you to share some stuff, tactics, maybe a sneak peek of the book in a minute, but I do want to ask you this too. I think it's important. We're talking about a lot of things we can do, to get our teams there. What are some signs that a team does not have EQ, that this is a red flag, keeping in mind that, the leadership might not be super aware. They might know something's wrong, but they can't put their finger on it. So what are some signs that a team is not where they need to be from an emotional standpoint?
Yeah, there's a lot of talking about people, not talking to each other. There, you see a lot of that. You see a lot of outbursts. You see a lot of blaming. You're going to see a lot of just negative behaviors, and you're going to see a lot of attitude problems. Because they don't really have the tools. It's kind of like teaching somebody to fish. Nice to do, but if you don't give them a fishing pole, it's hard to fish.
Right.
Right.
That's a really good analogy.
So give
the fish are in there. The fish are in there. Just get them.
We just had a great example in the Stanley Cup playoffs of the Minnesota Wild moving on, and timely that you had the conversation just about, like, you can hear the cues, from the players and the coaches, and a clip that I shared with my team, some of the groups that I work with, was this, that the coach, they said, well, what's the difference? Like, what do you think is the difference between this team and other teams, or why did you advance and another team didn't? And it was because, and the quote was, because I think our players were playing for each other and talking to each other as opposed to playing with each other, and looking for what are you doing wrong and what am I doing right? It was more the conversation about what are we doing wrong and what can we do right, and we have the same common core of what we're trying to do out here, but that doesn't take place without something in place to make it happen, right? That doesn't normally organically happen. Like, that's something that takes great leadership, great direction, great blueprints, and the ability to use these tools that are available to us to grab and use. And I'm sure if we went to the back end of this at the beginning of the season, we would see all of those things in place prior to them thinking about going to the Stanley Cup Finals, right? Yeah. So I think that's just that piece that we miss. Lee said it earlier. This is not something you go halfway through the season when your season's a wreck saying, "Oh, I should just institute this now."
It's a lot easier to fix the roof when it's not raining, right? Right. And I think one of the things that people could do as their season is coming to a close. This is what we do with our business, and I do this within strategic planning, all these things. But literally, what do you need to start, stop, and continue, and get everybody's input? Even parents, what do we need to start? What do we need to stop? What do we need to continue? Kids, what do we need to start? What do we need to stop? What do we need to continue? And then you put it all on the wall, and then really start to see. And so you kind of debrief after the season. What went well? What are we going to keep doing? What do we definitely need to stop because this is not helping our team? And what do we want to continue doing? And put those all out there. And then when you do start to go move forward too, you'll find a lot of your stops have to do with some of this stuff. And that's why you're right. We're going to start doing this.
I love that, Angie. And again, for the coaches listening, because I've heard this before of like, well, the kids just don't get along. Well, coach them up. That's your job. I mean, that's just what you're here. I that's one of the most unaccountable statements I hear from coaches. Sometimes they don't get along. That's your job. That's part of your job. Okay. And it's also an opportunity. I'm being a little mean in the way I'm saying that. It's an opportunity if you're seeing that to learn and understand. I love what you just said. I never thought of it. What are we going to start? Say the three things again. It was start, stop,
and continue.
And continue. That's brilliant. All right. And the kids or your work team will be accountable to that if they come up with those ideas. And
your whole family could use that as a tool.
Totally.
And dinner. Right. What do we need to start, stop, and continue as a family? We need to stop interrupting each other. Okay.
Right.
We need.
Well, it's communal too. Like the coach or the person in charge, I guess, could lead that discussion, but you have to have the input from everybody in the room. And the answers might shock you. Yeah. They might shock you, with that. So, Angie, I also want to say this to you. Again, you showed your book a minute ago, Emerge. We talked about it at the top of the show. You said that there's a ton of tips in there. You want to give us a sneak peek so that the audience can go grab that right away?
Yeah. It's I don't know if you can see it here on this camera. It's Emerge. It's got this beautiful water, like a river analogy, and then a butterfly, because I think about water as flowing and continually moving and growing and changing and not becoming stagnant, never really step in the same river twice. Then I think of a butterfly where it turns from a caterpillar and then it ends its life as a caterpillar, and then it goes to the chrysalis, that messy middle. And then it has those imaginal cells that actually turn it into something new. So it's really an opportunity for growth. And then there's a change. And so really, I learned a lot of this stuff the hard way, and that's why I wrote the book. And then, in fact, I had to get past my ego. Somebody actually said to me, you should write a book, because I was raised with 8 out of 10 adverse childhood experiences, which means I didn't have the kind of parenting that would make I should literally be in jail, based on the statistics with somebody with those kinds of adverse childhood experiences. So what it's told me is that I've become very resilient, and I've turned a lot of my lessons into fuel and into resilience. And we can teach people these skills. And the reason I wrote the book is it could help one person. And if you are somebody that's like embarrassed or thinking you don't want to look into that mirror because you know that you do these things, look into the mirror and really just go, this is a skill. I'm not a bad person because I haven't developed these skills. They weren't taught to me. And they're out there now, and there's people that are teaching them. There's books on them. I would love to talk to anybody who wants to improve these. I love to shout it from the rooftops. And I love that you're doing this with younger kids, because if we learn this, it's like learning to play the guitar. I'm trying to learn it over here now. It's not that easy. And if you learn it earlier on, it's much easier to navigate transitions and hard emotions, because there's no bad emotions. There's hard ones, but they're giving you data, and they're important, and they actually tell you what you care about and what matters, which actually helps you kind of find your purpose and why you're on this planet and what you want to do while you're here. Your emotions are signals, but they're, like I said, they're not directives, and we got to talk about them, and we got to give people skills. And so for coaches that are worried, like, oh, I don't know how to teach this, you don't have to teach it. You're a facilitator. Mm-hmm. You can facilitate. You can ask the group what they'd like to do. If they know of any podcasts, if they know of any books, you could share this podcast and say, there's some ideas on here. What resonates with you? Because it can't be your idea, or it's not going to be, you're not going to create as much engagement. You need to let it be the team's idea. You can set the expectations of, this is what we're going to do, something. We're doing something in EQ and TQ, but you get to decide how, what some of those things are, and be part of bringing our collective group up, our collective TQ and EQ up in our group and in our culture.
Well, Angie, I'll say this. I've seen you speak about this. It's very powerful. And I don't think there's many things on the planet more powerful than someone that has had the hardships that you've had, and you have turned that into a force for good to help other people. I think that's one of the most, not just transformative, but magical things, when someone can take that I'll say it again, hardship, and turn it into a positive for other people. I mean, that's God's work, or whatever word they use, right? Yeah. So we appreciate you coming on and sharing some of that wisdom with us. And again, we're going to have her on quickly, a Ride to the Rink episode, parents. So we'll bottle this up for your kids in that short episode as well. But Angie, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here today. This was a fantastic discussion.
Thank you. You got me talking about all the stuff I love. And I got a lot of goosebumps, which is a sign of awe. When you get goosebumps, it's a sign of awe, which is a very powerful emotion as well. So
yeah, we will make sure that we put the quote out. This show gave me goosebumps. You just said it. That's going to be one of our next marketing materials. No, I appreciate you saying that.
It gave me goosebumps, which means I'm seeing moral beauty in the work that you're doing as well, because you're elevating not only hockey, but humanity.
Oh, we appreciate that. And that is one of our goals, because the game is so much bigger than just goals and saving pucks. So hopefully we're establishing that today. But that's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. For Angie Lion, again, her website, Angie Lion, that's spelled Lion, ANGIELION.com. And Angie said there was the other website as well?
Is blackriverpm.com.
There you go. Go check her out. We'll put it in the show notes as well for you to get quick access for all you executives out there that need this, talking to you. But for Mike Bonelli, I'm Elias. We'll see you on the next Our Kids Play Hockey, everybody. Remember, email us, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com, if you have any questions, comments, episode ideas, or click the link accompanying the episode in the description. You can text right to us. We love getting your thoughts and feedback on all these episodes. With that said, we'll see you next time. Enjoy your hockey. Enjoy your day. We'll take care, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.